Make this Valentine's Day as special for them as they are to you.
Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us again. This is Sunil Chandy for Food for Thought, a ministry out of Christ Episcopal Church. And thank you again for joining us and being a part of this program and all that we do to connect us to each other and to connect us to the vision of God working in the world, the kingdom of God active and joyful. And so at the very beginning of our show, there it is. Jan, thank you for being with us. Hello to you. It's so good to know that you're there always, Jan. It's wonderful. Good afternoon, Natalie. Natalie, you are just wonderful. Thank you. You're going to be, I think, helping us with morning prayer tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And there are other people who are here as well and joining us and will be a part of our program today. It's a beautiful day. I was out a little bit this morning and enjoying the wonderful weather in this New England town of Westerly, and just knowing that it is a wonderful place to be. And I think Dale is here too, Dale Miller. And good afternoon, Dale. Thank you for watching us today as well. So I really don't have much of a food for thought this morning, I think, or this afternoon. I think basically just making sure, because I was out today and it was just a very busy day, but it was just beautiful to be out. And I was meeting with a couple of our people from our church as we were talking over some property issues, and we're all wearing our masks appropriately, and we were being socially distant, and it's a good thing. We're adjusting to the needs of our moment and dealing with the challenge of the moment, and we're doing this with God's help, and so it's a great and wonderful thing. And the one thing, I guess, the food for thought, maybe the idea and the knowledge that God is always with us. Sometimes we go through the joyful times, and sometimes we go through the challenging times. And sometimes we see that, all we see is the problems before us. But if we could always know that God is with us, Emmanuel, God is with us, then maybe we could reorient our vision to see that these challenges and these joyful times are even the joyful times are transitory, and that there's a larger plan, there's a larger hope for us, and that is where God is taking us to. Today we do have our guest is one that you've intimately and well, because she is our senior warden, Betsey Rice. Betsey has been on this show many times before, and I think we have over 100 of these episodes that we've done, and I know that at least 3 of them were with Betsey, and so we're starting a new initiative as we begin this fall season. We're trying to get people who are in leadership and have conversations with them, with you, so that you will understand who they are and you'll connect with them. And Betsey is our senior warden. Our junior warden is Caswell Cook. We'll have other vestry members coming up over the next several weeks as we move into the fall season, and as we engage in something akin to going back to somewhat of a normal for us during as we come back from our summer vacations and re-engage in the normal worship fall patterns of Christ Church. And so I would love to have Betsey. Can you bring Betsey on so we can see her? Hi, Betsey.
Good morning, Sunil. How are you again?
Good morning again. We were meeting together this morning talking about some property issues and so forth. And so it's always joyful to meet with you. And thank you for watching and being supportive. And, you're a wonderful senior warden, Betsey, and I acknowledge that. I'm grateful for your presence in leadership and in my life. I want to thank you for that.
Well, it works both ways, Sunil. We work well together and with Caswell, and it's a pleasure.
Yeah, it is a joy, and we always bring different perspectives to our conversation. It's beautiful. It's not as if we're all very strong people with a strong faith, and yet we also have a genuine love and concern for each other. So there's that wonderful mix of compromise and putting forth ideas, and we come up with something that's really good for all of us and our community.
Definitely. It's a good balance.
It is. So basically, with this, what we want to try and do with this conversation is to learn a little bit more about you, Betsey. I mean, you've been a leader as on vestry, and you've been our senior warden for a while. But kind of like, I don't know if people know the leaders as much as they know the other parts of your life that make you so brilliant and wonderful, and the experiences that you bring. What is one thing that people might not know about you? Let's start with that.
Oh, wow. Well, it depends on who you ask, I expect. I think the thing that you wouldn't know from church would be that I am a ceramic sculptor, and that that is my profession, and I have done that for being a studio potter for probably 30 years, and then for the last 20 I've been a sculptor. So yeah, it's really been, I started when I was 20 or 19, and it's been a long thing. So I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. But I don't know if people see that much stuff. I basically do my sales through galleries and my website.
Yeah.
So, but then some people do know that. Other people, I don't know. It's hard to say. I am who I am. I don't know.
I love that part. I mean, when I still have those. One time you gave a Christmas ornament to us for Christmas, and it was just, we still have it. It's beautiful. We put it up on our Christmas tree, and you do a lot of shells, right?
Yes, so it's basically large sea life, oversized sea life. Matter of fact, I sat here purposely because over my shoulder is a Wental trap shell that it's normally about a half an inch big. It's very tiny, but the detail is lovely. So I make them bigger. I make it, oversized, so that people can appreciate the detail that is God created. I can't compete with Mother Nature. The designs are impeccable, and so my thought is to make them big enough to accentuate the detail so that people can really appreciate the incredible design of nature.
So that's the one right over your shoulder, right?
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And above there's a horseshoe crab and a skate egg case. Those are,
wow.
And the reason they're in my house is because there's something wrong with them, and so I couldn't sell them. That's why. It's fine if you put them high enough on the wall. But that's the kind of thing that I do.
Well, they look gorgeous. They look so real. I didn't. What's that called? A skate?
Skate egg case. This one up here on the black one.
Yeah.
Like you find on the beach. They're about this big.
Yeah.
So I just make them this big. So
Okay.
that you can, and the horseshoe crab too. I mean, those are so prevalent around here. Most everything I make, the Wental trap is not, but most everything I make is found here on our shores. And I would just walk the beach and find slipper shells and mussels and crabs and lobster. Make a lot of lobsters, but things like that that are just that we walk over. We don't even pay attention, or we crush the shells and throw them away or whatever. But they're amazing. Even a clam shell, the intricacy of the joint that they have, it's remarkable, the engineering that God has put into them.
Wow.
So, but they're often so small that you don't really pay attention. So I just make them big enough so that people can appreciate what it really.
You know what? It's interesting. The one that's right over your shoulder. What is that called again?
It's called a Wental trap, and I think it's more of a Florida Caribbean type shell. And I just happened to see it in a book, but I just loved the little ridges on it and whatever, and it felt like it was fun to make it, so I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and was that made out of
That's
clay?
porcelain. Yep.
Porcelain.
Yep. That one's. But most of them they're either out of stoneware or porcelain, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And glazed and whatever, and I make them so that most hang on the wall, because then because they're clay, they're somewhat vulnerable. So if they're on the wall, they're out of harm's way. And
You know, one of the things that is really, I think you just what I thought of, I heard was that the intricacies of the design, right? The
Mhm.
I mean, these are multicellular organisms, and you see how they have adapted to itself to the environment. And so, what does that say to you about the creator?
Yeah, that's what's interesting. When I did the lobster, thought, well, claws and whatever, I can do all that. But I had to then go underneath the mouth and I thought, well, if you're going to do this kind of detail, you really got to do all that. Well, honest and true, the detail of just, I mean, I don't even, it's so intricate. And so obviously each piece does a certain thing. Some of it grabs it and some of it chews it up and some of it moves it over. Anyway, and it just, it just tells you how Mother Nature and God and creation have, that's just beyond us. It's so incredible to think of all that goes into any one organism, and certainly the human body is. I mean, it's beyond me how it all works, and that it does work, and that everything has to coordinate with each other, and it's just a mystery, and that's what touches me, that I feel like, wow, does everybody see this? Does everybody, I want to make sure everybody sees this. It's just,
It's
it's very,
beautiful.
yeah, I think it's hard to put words into it. It's why I sort of just create it, because it's, and everybody will look at the same piece and walk away with a different reaction, which is great. Means what it means to each person individually, how they feel about what they see. And what's really rewarding and gratifying to me is that I'll make a piece and I have an intention in my mind of what I think is important about it and the color and whatever. And someone will see it or even buy it and they will tell me what it means to them. And it's like, wow, I didn't see that. I didn't, but it comes from their personal experience. And much the way probably when you deliver a sermon, what you're trying to say. What people hear is a whole different vantage point.
I
And
know.
and and it takes on a life of its own, and it means something to them that may even change their life that you had no clue was going to do that. And that's how I feel like about the art and music, of course, and I've heard Bunky say this many times, you put the music out there, but it changes. It has a life of its own, and it's in that moment and what people respond to, that touches their heart, and that's a gift that hopefully I feel like I'm giving without any ownership to it at all. It's just the spirit at work.
So it's interesting that you say that, because so then like your art is an expression of prayer for you, because I know, like when you in terms of a sermon, right?
Mm.
Sometimes I know that it's you offer what you can. You offer with the greatest intention. You try to do the work. You try to try to work it out as much as you, and you just offer it. But you know that and then there's this part where that's after you offer it, you just say, well, now God, it's yours.
Exactly.
Now again, I mean, it was always yours, from the get-go, right? But now that I've taken it, interpreted, and then I offer it back, and it's now yours to give to the world. And if there's a hope that comes out of it, in the same way, it seems like you do with your art, with your sculptures, with all that you do. It's the same thing. I have that sense, right?
Yes. Yes. And the older I get, and the whatever, the more it feels that way. More, it's about what of me can I put into the piece? What message kind of can I works for me, that, and then what will ultimately get transferred to another person in a different way. We can all look at a tree that's beautiful, and but we all see different parts of it. I mean, if somebody gets more involved with the color of the leaves, and I personally go so fascinated by the bark and the gnarls and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, there's beauty comes in so many different ways, and I think it's important that sometimes, and like times like this where people are a little frustrated and whatever, it's like, look at this pandemic as to what's positive about it. What is, obviously we all know what's bad about it. We all know how inconvenient it is, whatever. But the upside of what the silver lining of, there's always a silver lining and stuff. And it's really just the vantage point, I think, of how you look at things. And so I think that just applies to just about anything any subject you bring up. This is how you look at it.
Yeah. The other thing I think I sensed in you, and this is my coming out of my relationship with you, because you've taught me this, right? Is there's a patience about you. There's like a I'm the type of guy, and me, right? And it's kind of like I want things yesterday, done yesterday, almost, right? There's always like there's an energy that I have, it's got to be done. It's something that's inside of me that's like, it's got to be done, but it's got to be done yesterday, And And what you've actually taught me is this thing about just patience, to sit for a while, to be able to kind of, and I know that this is actually a message from the Gospels. I mean, Jesus calls us to be quiet and to take Sabbaths and to see things by breathing it. But then you've reaffirmed that in me often when I talk to you. I mean, it's just like, and I'm wondering if that's the same way you approach your art. When you're looking deeply into something, right? It's like you're not moving, except your mind is just being still and being part of it and trying to embrace it,
Yes. I have to preface this by saying I wasn't always like this. If my sister is watching,
before we go into that, so how many siblings do you have?
I have a brother and a sister.
And you're the youngest one?
I am the youngest, yes.
You're the youngest one.
Yeah, and I was very impatient, and I had a terrible temper, and I suffered no fools, and I was usually sent to my room a lot of times. So
I don't sense that about you at all.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm prefacing this, because what you see at this moment took many years to get to. But I think what I've learned was that what I was trying to do wasn't getting me where I needed to go. And then again, the art really did have a role in it, in the sense that I knew I began to realize what I wanted to do, how I wanted to create, but it all takes time, and you can't rush it. You have to, it's stages, and you have to wait till certain things get to a certain dryness, not too wet, not too dry, and then let it dry slowly so it doesn't crack, and then you have to fire it, and then you have to glaze. I mean, there's so many processes and so many places where things can go wrong that if you don't do it carefully, it'll ruin it. So and I think that helped, that taught me too, a lot of things taught me, after many years of living, you learn the hard way. But I think spiritually, what I've also learned with that is that when you think you're in a crisis and the world is just falling down around you for whatever reason, that God is still there, and there is a solution, and it will turn out somehow, probably not how you would have chosen or expected, but often way better than you could have imagined. So that's kind of what gives me the patience to get to calm down and say, just, it's okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be fine.
And yes, definitely. And I often, after coming out of a conversation with you, it feels that way. It feels like God will continue to do what God needs to do, and we'll be fine. We were just talking about I was reading something yesterday about in a novel, and it said the fool is the one who looks at the data, looks at data only to support what he wants to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're talking about.
And so it's kind of like this idea, sometimes we want to see things in the way that we want to see it, right? And then we look for things that support that vision, right? But in my conversations with you and with Caswell and with the leadership in our vestry, what we try to do is look at what is before us and say, let's really look at this.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's really look at this and see where God is taking us to. Let's look and breathe in this, because God might be showing us something different. And I sense that that vantage point comes from and I think you embrace that. You embrace that because I think it's just looking at the world around us and really appreciating the world around us for what it is, and to see that reality and then applying that wisdom to whatever decisions we make.
Yeah, I think too. I think at my age, what I'm discovering is that there's always there are possibilities out there. I'm beginning to realize, like, look for the advantages, look for the gifts out there, because they're there. And when something happens that doesn't go according to plan, that arrives, as a surprise, it's sort of like, no, I'm not gonna shun away from this. I'm gonna see where it's gonna go, because this is an adventure. There's an opportunity out here, possibly. At least let me look for it to see whether it's something that's, yeah, because that's how life is. I think I've gotten to the point where you realize that the troubles are what make us who we are. That's where we grow. And so instead of trying to avoid them, it's sort of like take them, accept them, and meet the challenge and try and grow, see what you can grow from that.
Yeah, I mean, an example of that is about 5 months ago. I mean, in March. I remember March 17th, around that time, right? COVID-19 became a reality for us. And all of a sudden, the weekend that we were supposed to have a St. Patty's Day celebration, right?
Yeah.
That weekend, you, me, and Caswell and kind of talked about what are we going to do, and
And
then
now I ate corned beef for a couple of weeks.
right. And then we went and talked to the vestry, and just said, look, we need to cancel the in-person services. We spoke with our diocesan bishop and said, what's the advice? And everyone said, we got to stop this, otherwise we're putting people in danger. That was a radical shift.
Yeah.
We didn't have. I'll tell you, I was really weeping because the 2 Sundays afterwards, I never had a situation where I wouldn't go to church on Sunday morning and worship. Ever since I was a young, I've never had that situation. And so, but we went on and did online worship, and so and I think we were all scared. What was that going to happen? What was that going to do with worship, and how we are we going to do church anymore? How we do church? And then all of a sudden, now it becomes a burgeoning ministry for us.
Absolutely. I mean, all of us have arrived at is this whole new concept of communication, which, even as we've discussed, after this is over and when things are supposedly back to normal, we will continue this on some level, because it's been such a service and a gift to those who didn't have any of these options before. And as it is now, we're starting our in-person services in September, but many of us, including me, will not be there. The science for me is just not convincing enough that I don't need to be there. That's not a risk I care to take, and I don't have to take it because we have these online services. And I can, for me, and that doesn't work for everybody, but for me, this works for me. I feel connected to the service, to feel it's a valid worship.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's taken us all these months to fine tune what we're doing, and we're still working on it. So there will be glitches, but it's been a real process, and it's who would have thought? It's not anything we would have even dreamt of. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like, wow, it's sort of like working with clay. You start with one thing and it goes a different way, and it's like, oh, I could do it this way. And it's sort of the serendipity of the moment. And I used to tell my kids this until they threw it back at me. Don't think of it as a problem. Think of it as an opportunity.
Wow.
Which is what I kept telling them as kids. And then when I was in the mess, and I was like, they said, Mom, don't think
it's an opportunity, Mom.
It's good. It was a good reminder. And of course, I couldn't be happier. So I think if you look at the glasses half full instead of half empty, life is difficult, but if you can know that it's coming and you're going to be confronted with these things, it's pretty exciting.
I actually I think it is a beautiful thought. I also think the people that you are with help you through those challenges, and they offer a grace that help you to know that you're going to be able to make it. So I mean, the idea that I know that whenever we're facing a challenge as a church, I know that you and Caswell are there, that the vestry is there, and that helps give me comfort and strength, because I know that we're all faithful people. You're all good. We're all good people. We're trying, and we're trying to do our best with this. And even though that it might be different from what we imagine, it'll be okay, because I've got the people that I need, the people that I love around me. Right?
Yeah, you're not in this alone.
You're not in this alone.
Everybody brings something to the table, and we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And God is right in the center of our experience.
Absolutely.
And we'll figure it out, Betsey, I'm just before we go, let's just remind some of our folks that we are doing in-person worship. We've been experimenting with in-person worship at the 5 o'clock Saturday night service, and that's going pretty well. And now we're taking all of those learnings and we're applying that for the Sunday in-person service at 10 o'clock. It'll still mean that our Sunday 10 o'clock service will still have online worship, an online worship component, so that everything that we see that we do in person will actually be able to be experienced online. And the only difference is that for those people who are watching online, they'll experience spiritual communion, whereas those who come to the 10 o'clock Sunday morning service will have communion of one kind, the bread that will be distributed. And so you have been working with Sarah Starkweather as the chair of that in-person committee to make sure that the safety guidelines are being appropriately met. The guidelines from the state, the federal government, and our diocesan guidelines. They've ensured that those procedures are in place, and so it's really beautiful. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think people have to do what's comfortable for them, and some people are definitely just have to be in church. It's so important to them; they just need that experience. And other people just feel that it's a risk they don't want to take. And either answer is fine. Yes. And as I said, I'm choosing to stay home, and others will. It's an individual choice. I think it's safe. I'm just a little overcautious.
No, and it's great. And this is like in the Anglican tradition. It's the via media, right? It's the way of the middle. It means we could do both. We don't have to.
That's the beauty, is that nobody really has to feel pressure to do one or the other.
Yeah.
They're both there, and they're going to be the exact same experience, whether you're there or home. So the choice really is what you're most comfortable with.
And part of the leadership that you and our vestry has shown is that we've invested. We've invested to make sure that both experiences can be met. That you could have an online worship, you could also do in-person worship, and we've been working on that all through this crisis, and so it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the other thing is also our Sunday school is going to resume. Sunday school experience is going to resume, and then also we'll continue to do morning prayer like we virtually. We'll continue to do food for thought. It reaches so many different people, not just in our region, but also throughout the country and throughout the world. And we'll continue to offer all of these wonderful things, that whatever we could do to spread the kingdom of God. And Betsy, I'm just so grateful that you're here. And
thank you, Sunil. I'm happy to be part of this. It's great working with you. You are you are definitely a ball of energy and think outside of the box, and that's really exciting. It's a good mix. My job, I have learned over the years, is to make sure the details get done. But your imagination and energy is inspiring, and it's not always appreciated, but it is definitely, it makes us grow. It makes us think past the moment, and I think that's what we're asked to do, to be the best we can be as God's children, and that means taking risks and thinking big. So thank you.
No,
being our rector.
Yeah, it's a joy. And so thanks again, and we'll
namaste.
Namaste. All right. Folks, thank you for joining us again for this program. And so usually, Betsey Rice is amazing. And so we have, our other warden is Caswell Cook, who is our junior warden. Caswell, you heard last week we had Caswell and Christine on, and that was just a joyful conversation. And we are going to continue to meet our vestry one by one. And for any one of the vestry people who'd like to join us on this food for thought, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you, our parishioners who are watching, to connect with them and learn a little bit about them. We haven't ever really talked about Betsey's art and how talented she is, and only a few people from our congregation may know of that experience that she brings. So this is what I think would be a good thing to learn about our vestry leadership, who they are, and how God brought them to this place. So right now, let's end with our prayer that we usually say at the end of our program: "The Lord be with you." Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, artists and counselors, caregivers, parents and students. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to spread the light of Christ to the world. The world needs it right now.
There are so many stories we've never told. She already has your heart. This Valentine's Day, give her one of ours.